Time was always best spent telling Yellow where to go. Hey, fuck off, mate. It's too bright to be out this early on the glow. Left myself out there wondering why. Told Indigo to fucking go off and individualize. Individualize, go and Indigo. That's when I down then said, deep blue estate, blue bubbles a stain. That's when it down rained and downpoured the oldest saying. On the earth it was flat out 3D. Straight away up boiled the tens of a degree. Green spirit green on the tree. Leaves will drift and leaves will always float by into the lives of all the kids of mine. Hello you on the flat out there, earth and go. Left myself out looking red like I'm looking out there looking left and left. That's when I said orange you go and then orange I've left. And I let that orange mandarin in the strangest of places. That's when I remembered the brain and the Brennan bat. And that's when I said about time the purple's a diced. That's when I left myself out there wondering white. White, was it right? White, was it snow? Crystalline flake coming down like a life in the light. Yellow, that's I said. Yellow, fuck off, I said go away. Indigo, go individualise. And that's when I visualised and I visualised. If it wasn't for Mr. and Mrs. Brown, Adrian and Dean, I'd never know myself as twat, or twat like the brown of a simple sleeve grate, which is like a grey slide, I might just be. I might just be the grease of a grate, but not a greaser like a monkey chain, like I'm in a train and I'm in a train of thought. I might just be always hanging on the line, hanging from the trees like every other line, but am I a lime of a green light? Or am I the first feeling that ever fell to the floor, flat out golden brown to the earth that we came, so round like a ground that we could all pop up and stand? And I left me shoes on the floor like a soul we could all have over our core, so the spirit could be filled up like a lime green cordial, Kool-Aid they call it on a green leaving train. But that's when I couldn't be the soul of old soul. Could I be the old householder, our cellar D? Well, I'm not an old soul, but I might have given them some souls. Of a soul's type, I might just be the one on the line. Looking always at the clock. Hey, doctor, what's the freckle past the day and night? Was that baby born on time? But to me, on the tree, I didn't care about what the time you come or the day you were born. I was always just worried about the conscious mind and the brain of train. Dear, my darlings and girls, I've been looking at myself out there for a while. They tried to tell me that I wasn't the old crocodile, but I said I'll see you on the go and out allegation, and I'll get it down to the paper, not yet there on perfection. They said I'm running out of the loo, but I couldn't portal myself into the dime. I was on the potty as well. But that's when I thought about it too, right, and I said myself I could be lost in a dial. Would anyone know if I was still out there looking for myself? Would anyone still be out there wondering if I could be okay? My mum said you're not well in the head. You need to go see your mentally sick in psychiatric ward again. That's when I said to me mate upstairs, hey man, he's still up there. I'm looking for some fella called a god or something like that. Apparently I'm not the same son that I was or like anyone else, but he is. That's when I thought it doesn't matter much anymore. Could I be just that old lord? Bored, they said I'd be bored here, and I said, all aboard, the train's coming at night. All aboard, the same train's coming in the light. All aboard, the same time of the train, I thought I might have had my own mind. Am I just that boy gone spoilt as rotten? Am I just a kid called the Lord? Was there only one Lord in that book of thought, and was there only one Lord that travelled from shore to shore? I thought there was only one called the Lord, and nothing was ever said about him. He was just called the Lord Christ, they said he was, the Lord Christ. Well, if the Lord cries, he will cry out loud, for it doesn't just come down, oh Mrs. and Mr. Brown, the two bloody trees out there, the ancients. Unless he is, oh Mr. Lord, bloody have a cry and bark up every tree if he wanted to tell you something. Otherwise, what would the boy even come to ground to do, if you know what I mean? But hey, if that was me, I wouldn't be wondering why I'm so lost in my mind. Actually, I couldn't care about much if that was true. That was who I am, just turning water into friction of time. But I remember not the same old sailing thing, because if I was sailing the same old sailing thing I was sailing back then, or then I probably made Jesus his Christ, tip of pencils, tip and train himself his knife and points as well as the whole while through. For even he couldn't find the beginning that he didn't begin with at the end that he couldn't fit and see at the fight. Yet it ended with God and it began with God, but in the whole way through, Jesus cried and found nothing. But am I the same, or am I just the same again to say, well, many people try? But eventually I'm going to come to my sure thing of myself and put my feet on myself. And is that a good day or a bad day? They'll say on that day, but if I could ever get some time, I'd ask for at least 7 to 12 people to join me on the band. Because I've only got 2 times and 2 things I could say myself about, 5 things I couldn't disagree. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind a little help out there. Everyone's been working for the old clock themselves. It's been a while that we've come from like who knows where down to about now. We're looking up there like, is it even up there or is it all down here? These are things going round and I'm not too sure. Like NASA's over there, America, what they got over Africans, over other kites. What they got the Africans, like the Afrikaans, like the Afrikites, the Africans, the Afrikites or the Africambers. Why they got their satellites of NASA over our lands over here? I didn't sign to that in my parliament. Can NASA piss off back to America? We got our own shit going on over here, if you hadn't noticed, umbrella kiddo. And so what does that mean about anything? Well, eventually, what's gonna happen? I could tell you now, I could tell you later, but at the same time, I couldn't tell you Australia. For if it was Australia that I was telling Australia, well then I'll tell you Australia. I'll tell you Australia. If I come to Australia, then Australia, Italia. I tell you Italian, I tell you Italian, Italian, I tell Italian, I tell you Italian to Tyrian to Talon, no Talon to Red Talon, Alan the Key, or Steve, Alan the Steve. How long did Alan the Steve? How long did Alan the Steve? The Steve of the Alan the Key, the Steve of the Alan, 90 angle on the Allen key. It's a Steve Allen 90 angle, but it's a 45-degree pitch on each point of the angle in Allen key. But it's a Steve of the Allen. It's a Steve Allen, like it's not always round, like I'm putting your bed together. It's like it's like a 45, even like that. And there's that the 9-degree 30 quarter of a Harry Potter Dumbledore's in the 9 and 30 quarter platform. Yeah, well, when you put it in bed together, it's like a quarter turn, man. It's not an invaded fort, but to get that door hammered in, you gotta get your bed like just mattress straight on the floor, you know. Yeah, the ensuite, the ensemble. Yeah, I've got the ensemble too. The ensemble is the way to go, man. I would get that ensemble fort, for I thought I might introduce myself in a few songs first on this Nature's Own Discovery album. But I thought I'd have to stop in at least one song and carry on a bit about that, which is not myself, being not me. So I couldn't be the Lord, you know, because that chick over in New Zealand in NZ there, which is a white chick, a white fella, I think she named herself Lord with an E, Lord E, Lord. Or maybe she was leading the way something. I don't know, but the Lord is mystical like that. He's definitely mysterious, the Lord. Like he wouldn't just come perhaps like up there, straight up, hey. He'd like go bing, 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 bing. Then like all of a sudden it'd be like bing, 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 bing. Then all hey, yep, hello, hello. But at the same time, if I was that Lord, I couldn't be anymore because she spelled it herself with the E on the end, or E Lord. Yeah, the Lord, yeah, Lord. Maybe she's the Lord over there, or she's the Lord, then I'm just her brother. Or maybe I'm the good and she's the Lord, and then everyone else might be the son, eh? Or maybe down under, yeah. Maybe on the south side. Could be like that, maybe. I don't know, man. If it was the end and all that shit was true and that God come in the end and in the beginning God was, and all the long way, well, it's judgment sometime along the way. Well, then I don't know what would happen, because heaven, earth, and hell, well, never really explained, even what the world meant and that. We define that in the Bible later on. But that's like English translation of something which was written in the Bible that was actually not actually written in the Bible. It was talked about, and then written down in English. But defined were already the words that were writing it in, before we even knew what heaven, earth, hell, or the world meant, you know. Or what God or the Lord or Son of God or life and stuff meant. But to tell you now, I wouldn't tell you anything other than what hell was. If hell was what life had been, then only heaven could come from it. And this earth was flat out, like out flat. But we know that the earth isn't flat out, like something you get from ideas. It's definitely from right here, that it was round about, somewhere centre pin. But I could never find such a thing in the beginning, or began in the eye. For I must begin in night. Otherwise I'll be blinded by the light come the morning time. That's how I knew I must dream time or dream timed. The Aboriginals would say they dream timed because they time dreamed, and then in the morning their eye was ready to see the light because they were baby dreaming and their mama daddy, and they were already running and walking and going around to the jupes, and they were blowing out the didgeridoos and boomeranging around. But they might have already been through the moon and outside the underside of the sun. You know, one time they were massacring over here, the whites coming over, someone probably said, up down, get it. That's what an Aboriginal fella told me the other day anyway, down the train station. He said when they were on the way over there, someone said up, and up, we pissed off the old mate's house upstairs, brother's house up back. He had a mattress up there for us all to jump on and sleep on and live up there, and we just come down here for feed and that, for swim and that, and to play around every now and then and test out the technology, and we've been living up there in the station. Like they got stations up north here where they have the beef and cows and that. But I thought that was true myself, because if I was a minister of such caustic or cursed peace, like such say Jesus Christ, I wouldn't let anyone go down for the hammer. If he was such a carpenter, that is, I'd take all the nails out the spike. But I'm not saying that I'm Jesus Christ, but Christ Jesus, like Chris is Josh. It's just Jesus Christ. It couldn't be Christ or Jesus. No, Christ Jesus means coming twice, and twice coming means don't come again. You do something once, you don't do it again, you just do it once, and that's all you do it. Especially if it's not nice for someone else, you don't do the same thing twice for someone else, it's not nice for them. If you do one thing for yourself, and that means it's for yourself, which is pick up your shoes and put them on your feet. And then the second thing that you do again is not take your shoes off unless someone else needs the shoes that you don't need anymore because you got new shoes now and they had no shoes. Otherwise you leave your shoes on and you don't give your shoes away. But if someone's got their shoes, then you don't give your shoes to them to make them give their shoes to you. So you just give your shoes to yourself unless you get new shoes and someone younger than you can fit into your shoes and they have no shoes yet. That's why hand-me-downs is all about school and growing up with your younger brother or younger sister, whatever. And that, but Antichrist and crossed anti. When it crossed anti, the Antichrist or the Antichrist, 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 auntie, like, you know, your auntie up there, auntie say. Auntie's the moon, because uncle the sun, uncooler. The sun is not cooler because aunties are white. Aunties are white because it's a cooler night, so she's auntie light. And then the sun is too bright because that's the auntie, the brother uncle light. For the uncle light is uncle light, always drinking too much uncle-y. And then aunties no drinking less brother hunk, and that's when you know the brother and the sister, the son and the moonster, or the Antichrist, the Christ auntie, like the son of light, because the life is the son of life. The son of God is the life, which is like everyone life. Everyone living life and living like life. And I thought nature's own discovery wouldn't just be a discovery of life, it'd be something that we all knew already in the mind. But these days at school we're not taught such a thing that's so simple, you know. Honestly, my whole life has been left about just figuring out what the truth is because it didn't make sense to me what I got taught at school and observed in nature. Like seriously, I could probably teach myself as quick as what school told me the truth was about nothing that I learned at school in about 35 seconds if I just sat down for 9 years before I went to school. So at 25 years old, I pretty much got stationed on the cross, which was on the cross, like playing out crosses on my figures. On the cross, I mean I had to cross out everything that I got taught 25 years before that. Because I got sick in the head maybe, I don't know, I just couldn't figure out what life was, and I got sat down by whoever sat down, and I had to cross out, all that I picked up from 0 years age to about 25 years age, and for the last 9 years I've been not too well, but at the same time I figured out maybe it's about time we change stuff here, because the coronavirus ourselves taught us that, like schools these days, we've got so many schools out there, but they can do it online like they did with Corona. And not only that, all the schools that are pretty much everywhere now, we could turn into like solar panels all over the roof, batteries for energizing the suburbs, and then also for, houses for like the Africans, the third world countries, and that give them slowly houses in there, and they could, well, they know they're like the master farmers, you know, or they were once upon a time. And that bloke made the windmill as well, and the wind is where it's at. Well, the wind is the window, you know. Don't forget about the light speed. The wind is the window. And the wind is like that in the wind here, one out here. The light itself takes a while to see, but the moment you're there, when you're born, it's then the lights go on. But the wind is always the windrow or the wind of roast. As the roast of wind is, well, I wondered why sometimes the Lord would maybe appear in my mind, or maybe appear in life, but maybe never be seen by the all. That could be a certain case of due diligently, or due diligently of course in nature. For I myself am not the knowing of that which is the Lord's knowing. I which is God, and I God that is two, Miss Tree and Mrs. Tree. that which is the mystery or the mysterized, that which is the highest height, the height and angel, the giant, the tree, the two trees, Mrs. Tree and Mr. Tree, the four brothers, which are Adrian Tree, Mr. Brown, and then Mrs. Dean, which is our lovely queen, four of us to one of she. But we are the five in nature that hold all bounds of nature's four windows: the rain, the sight, the light, and the ground. And within that we control it with all Pinky Sun, with all our sticks on all our trees. And they drop the leaves. But Mr. Gray say that which is married to Simone and married to the sun and moon, uncle and auntie, that which is the grandfather, himself the Lord and the sun and moon, the Lord, sun and moon, and us tree, which is 1, 2, 3. We sun, moon, and tree form nature, which is God in bound of holds. Then the Lord comes from out the bounds, out the window, from beyond time's object of effective nature into life at apparent reasonable doubt. That's a jest of nature. Don't cost a thing about nothing other than what you worry about. If you worry about nothing, then there's nothing to worry about. If you worry about nothing at nothing being worried about because something doesn't need to be worried about because it costs nothing to worry, then that worried cost that costs others worrying is something that costs them nothing to be worried about. Therefore it's worried, and it shouldn't be worried about if it costs nothing for some, but costs everything for others to not worry, which is nothing that it's spent as or spending as. In spent time is spent fiction or addiction, fiction or conviction, convictionizing or conventionizing. I spent a lot of time just convincing myself that I'm not who I said I was. In knowing that I'm not who I said I was, I might be now closer to who I really am. At the same time, though, I owe it to everyone around me, especially my mother and my father, who died about a year ago, Tony and Margarita. My mother's still alive, and brother Damo, who I miss heaps, but we're still close enough to know that one day we will be alright, because we've both always been alright. And we probably owe that to everyone who's been around us forever. But at the same time, if I was actually who I am, I could never tell myself that I was that thing, that I'm not, because it just wouldn't sit right with everyone else, would it? For number one, they'd fear it, they'd want to know it, and they'd want to rule it. Number two, they'd be worried about it, not caring, and also interested by what it had to say and offer to the world of universal thought, as well as ideas and what place in our own knowing of what we could do with inventive life. And number three, well, most of all, if God became true, or the Son of Jesus Christ became, not many people would ever care about it if they did care about it, because most people wouldn't care about such a thing of disbelief. For if Jesus Christ became, he wouldn't become for the believers, so to speak. They already in church and believe. But the people that would be naturally attracted to him wouldn't care about him, because they might not believe in God or such thing of Jesus Christ themselves. They might be anti-Christ or polarist against Christ, as Lucifers or devil believers, but the anti-Christ is opposed to Jesus Christ. It's his plural or plurate opposite, as attractive natures, like negative magnet and positive magnet attract. Jesus Christ and Antichrist, they attract. They're not opposite. One's like the blind and one's anti-blind. So in poker, you put your blinds and your anti-blind. Your blinds are on your curtains, and your house is on an arrestive state of anti-blinds. There's no blinds on your house, yet there's blinds beyond your curtains. As there's blinds always in life, the light is that blight. That bright light that is the blinds are always down first, and there's the anti-blinds, what is beyond the curtain, what is beyond the life of that which is the light. And where does that thing come from? And is that the second coming of Christ, or the second coming of twice? And is that the beast, or is that the God of self? No, well, God is the whole objective thought of what are the blinders, or the blinders light of fighted blight. And what is the blighted knowing of the bright knowing of not night or day is zone? For I see the sun arise until I go to bed. That's 1 second of my life. I could be up for 24 hours, and that's 1 second of the sun. Just because the sun goes over like this, and it's different times of day and different temperatures, and we go around the sun, and we're wobbling around as well. That's only 1 second to the sun every day, or every time we go around. Every day, I'd say, because the one day is 24 hours, which is 1 second, for that's one rotation of the Earth. Next day is 1 second too. If we got to the other side, well, now we're saying that it's not like that. The sun isn't actually like that. It's just one dot. Because if we got to the other side, we'd be seeing one dot of the same direct light either way on each side. So it wouldn't be actually that big out there, would it? Wouldn't have to be, would it? It'd just be like one dot. If there was a light like on my roof, I don't need such a thing with 3 lights in. I just need one of them, you know. And especially being so far out there in space, they could shine all the way to Earth, being so small. If it was that bright anyway, it wouldn't have to be that big, would it? Not really, but apparently it uses a lot of wood. Oh, well, that's what they say, mate. Paper doesn't grow on trees, and trees don't form in paper bounds, and wood doesn't need fire, but fire doesn't need ash, and ash isn't on the tree, but bark does come away. And paper does melt, and mould does return to gas and hydrogen, and everybody flammable thought. Well, the sun only needs a thought to think, and that sun only needs thinking thoughts to find a light or inblighted brightness of life. Without a thought or a thinking train of thought in nature, there would be no need for a light of the roof to have an idea of sun. You are begotten, and begetting are you on. No, I'm not begetting, but I am begotten, because I am not necessarily the sun's shine or the shiner of saint. But the saints do know the sainting shine and the shine of sign right. As there might be a saint and an angel and all those which consider themselves as knights and sons of God who have risen or chosen and ascended into heaven of life, and have luck to know the Father of course as the tree which I do speak of. That which is God, the tree that leads them into heaven, and they become angels, saints, or knights, whatever they prefer to call themselves, as the greats and legends of time. But then there is the Lord, of course, who sits above the measure of worth. I'm not that Lord, obviously. I'm just a member of the public, and a member of that public I concern interest of, and concern this interest of a nature called nature of thought. If I was the Lord could not sit in a body called person. The Lord, which is the magnificent, marvelous knowing of that which is knowing of the all-knowing nature. The Lord, which manifests in life through any form of nature's knowing directed for life. Possibly indescribable to what is beyond us as human beings, beyond us as before we were human beings, and what is beyond us in dimensional life after life, or beyond this life of being a human form. Well, at the level of low intermediate lost, the Lord would come into the profound interest of a person to speak to nature, as humans need that knowing. Not does the nature beyond us need that knowing. Like the book once was the Holy Bible. That was a long time ago, and that was like when fishes were fish that are now beyond human beings, that we are now the fish that could have been back for that Bible, that time for another thing or the same thing being knowable. But at the same time, I could only tell you one thing before I could tell you everything, but at the same time I told you enough about not knowing what I was knowing about. If I could tell you more about the natures or the knowing of nature's own self-discoverizing, nature's own knowing, then I wouldn't like the light, and I wouldn't like the light of life, but I would life the light, and I would live the life of the Lincoln light. For the Lincoln light, or like in Lincoln, the Lincoln light, or the link on, or the on link, or the on link off, the off link, or the link at night. Do I blink at night, or do I link at light? And when I sleep at night, I'm a sleeping away. I'm a sleeping away at night, but I am always alive. But if I fell asleep at night, I would die, and there'd be no time for others to have a life like I live in light. But if I was aware in time as a precious memory of life being lightened in the day of time, I'd be like a wake azoring, but a zombie like a dressing, not the wisest thought I'd ever be a whitening life in the night I sleep a wide. Yeah, I sleep a wide all the time. If I died, I'd be never living in a time. I sleep a wide for that is like what is like all the day and nights of a life being lived in time of a life being given by that which is life ahead of time. If time itself was sleeping, say, and fell asleep, then the clock would fall off the wall and everything would stop, and there'd be no going in the brain or mind again. But say time was sleeping always, but it was wide awake in its knowing, so time was asleep. I am asleep, but that's what I was snoring for. I wasn't snoring, but I was time, and time was I just going time and time again wide. And that would be like time adrift, in knowing that time would always be alive in adrift, for if time was not alive and adrift, there'd be asleep, and there'd be no such thing as time for us to live a life. Ah, see now what he means about being the Lord, yes? Not the Lord that I am. I'm just someone who's been seated in the seating of situations. I regard myself as a biblical minder. A biblical minder, for they call me just one on the pip. I'm just one on the pip who's eaten too many olive pips. Too many pips of olive and too many heaps of leaves. But they told me that when I was at school, don't touch the olive leaf. Leave the leaf of the olive alone. It's grey under the bottom. Have you seen the leaf of an olive tree? It's grey under the bottom, or white even, if you want to concern interest. It's not like another leaf that is always green all around. The actual olive leaf is like white or grey underneath, yes? Yes, it is actually. I noticed that myself. If you see an olive leaf, you would, yeah. And they say leave the leaves of an olive alone. But there's one leaf of an olive, you know, the leaf of the eye, that which is the site of Li, or let elite, of Adita light. And so elite light of elite thought. But I say there is elite out there. The elite, well, the elite would be a light, he light, or he light, a he light to light. He lit in light, or he lit in, he hidden light. The he lit in life of a light hidden. The lit light, or a little light, the little malant, the little malant. For an ant itself doesn't lift 8 times its gesture. It carries negative posture. Its simple plan of an ant's nest is to mold its nature, to mount its fort. Like in nature's mound of ants' mounds in the desert, they put them brick by brick by brick by brick by brick by brick. But first they got to get a little bit of clay. Each piece, each ant, say there's 1,000,000 ants, then you get 1 piece each a day, and that makes 1 brick. So they get 1 piece a day. Then that night, there's the honey gnats. The honey gnats, which are the not the day gnats. There's the honey gnats, which put the brick together at night. Then the next day, there's the working ants, which lay the brick, while the day gnats go out, get their crumb, and then the brick is built while they're asleep at night, and then the working ants just put it down straight away. They do it together. The day ants will get the little piece, and the night ants will make the brick, and then the next day, brick by brick by brick by brick by brick by brick by brick. But those ants never stop. But they can carry 8 times their weight, because eventually you'll see that the ants built the earth. Brick by brick by brick by brick by brick. But before they had weather, they actually had to use themselves, man. You know, before they had weather, they had to get an ant around, an ant around, an ant around, and lay ants around all the time. Which leads us to our next song. It's a good one, I think. If it's not, tell me, not okay. And that's okay with me.